They say the suburbs are safe. White picket fences, quiet streets, and smiling neighbors create the illusion of a perfect life. But what if I told you that some of the darkest, most disturbing horror stories didn't happen deep in the woods or on the shadowy streets of the city, but right next door? Welcome to a world where safety is nothing more than a comforting lie. In tonight's video, we're diving into 3 true horror stories that unfolded in the heart of suburbia. Neighborhoods just like yours. These aren't ghost tales whispered around a campfire. These are real events experienced by real people who thought they were safe in their own homes. But they were being watched. Each story begins innocently enough. A new family moving into their dream home, a babysitter watching over a peaceful house, a college girl house-sitting in a quiet neighborhood. But then, everything spirals into a nightmare. You'll hear about a neighbor whose obsession turned dangerous, a basement hiding a terrifying, long-buried secret, and a stranger living in the walls watching, waiting for the perfect moment. These aren't just scary stories, they're warnings. Because the scariest part? These things could happen to anyone, even you. So turn off the lights, lock your doors, and prepare yourself. If you think your neighborhood is safe, think again. Whatever you do, don't click away. Each story builds more tension, and the final one? It's something you'll never forget. Hit subscribe and stay with me till the end, because by the time it's over, you'll be double-checking every lock in your house. It was the kind of neighborhood you see in real estate brochures. Lush green lawns, trimmed hedges, white shutters, and kids riding bikes up and down the sidewalks. Emily and Ryan had just bought their first home there, tucked away in a quiet cul-de-sac where nothing ever seemed to happen. It was everything they'd dreamed of, a fresh start, a place to settle down, and at first it felt perfect. Neighbors smiled and waved, the mail arrived on time, and every morning was greeted with birdsong and sunshine pouring through the kitchen windows. But perfection has a way of hiding things. The first time they met Carl, their next-door neighbor, he showed up with a tray of cookies and a grin that felt a little too wide. He was polite, friendly even, but there was something off about the way he stared. His eyes didn't wander like most people's. They just locked in, unblinking, like he was memorizing their faces. He asked a lot of questions. Too many, really. Where did they move from? What time did they usually leave for work? Did they have any pets? Kids on the way? Emily laughed nervously, brushing it off. Ryan didn't think much of it either. After all, neighbors are supposed to be curious, right? Over the next few weeks, Carl made a habit of being around. Always outside, always watching. He'd wave from his porch when they got home late at night. He'd somehow appear every time they stepped outside to check the mail. And sometimes they'd catch him just standing there, not doing anything, not watering plants or walking a dog, just staring from his window, motionless as if he were waiting for something. One night, around 2 a.m., Emily got up to get a glass of water. As she passed the living room window, she froze. Across the street, Carl stood in his driveway, barefoot, staring directly at their house. No phone, no flashlight, just standing, watching. She ducked out of sight, her heart thudding in her chest. The next morning, when she told Ryan, he shrugged it off. Maybe he was taking the trash out or something, he said. But the trash bins were empty. Then things started to go missing. Small things. A package left on the porch that Amazon confirmed was delivered. A pair of gardening gloves from the backyard, the doormat. At first it seemed like coincidence, maybe porch pirates. But then Emily noticed something far more disturbing. One of their framed wedding photos, the one hanging in the hallway, had been moved. It wasn't crooked. It wasn't on the floor. It had just shifted, like someone had taken it off, held it, and put it back ever so slightly askew. They changed the locks the next day, installed cameras the day after that. And that's when they saw what Carl had really been up to. At first it was little things. Carl started showing up more often, always with a reason that sounded casual but felt rehearsed. A borrowed ladder he claimed he left behind, asking if they'd seen his cat, even though no one had ever seen him. With one, he'd knock on their door late in the evening, holding out a package he said was mistakenly delivered to his house, but the label clearly had their address. Emily began to dread the doorbell. It was never anyone but Carl. Then the conversation started getting strange. One morning, Emily stepped out to get the mail, and Carl was already there, waiting at the end of their driveway like he'd been standing there for a while. He smiled, said good morning, and then casually mentioned, "Hope Ryan's job interview went well yesterday. Seemed like a big one." Her heart dropped. They hadn't told anyone about that, not even their families. Ryan had only mentioned it in the kitchen the night before, while the windows were shut and the blinds were drawn. Another time, he asked Emily if she was feeling better, said he hoped her migraine wasn't too bad. The thing was, Emily hadn't left the house all weekend. She'd spent most of Saturday in bed, lights off, barely able to speak. There had been no posts about it, no calls made. Just a private conversation between her and Ryan, whispered behind closed doors. They began to wonder if Carl was listening somehow. Maybe through the walls, maybe through the vents. Ryan searched every room for hidden devices, for wires or strange noises, but found nothing. Just the uneasy feeling that their home was no longer theirs. Privacy had become a performance. Everything felt staged, exposed, like they were actors in a play they hadn't auditioned for. One evening, Ryan got home from work to find Carl sitting on their front steps. No excuse this time, just waiting. When Ryan asked him if everything was okay, Carl smiled and said, "I just like being close to you guys. You remind me of something I lost." Then he stood up and walked away, slow and calm, as if nothing about that sentence was unsettling. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house sounded like footsteps. Every shadow from the streetlight felt like it was leaning too far into their windows. They started keeping the lights on longer, the curtains drawn tighter. Ryan set up extra security cameras inside. One pointed at the front door, another in the living room, a third down the hallway, just in case. But the footage wouldn't bring them peace. In fact, it would only confirm what they feared most. Carl wasn't just watching, he had been inside. The first night the cameras were up, nothing happened, just static silence and the gentle hum of the refrigerator. Ryan spent hours watching the footage anyway, hoping to catch something that would make all of this make sense. But everything looked normal, too normal. It wasn't until the third night that the footage changed. At 3:12 a.m., the camera in the living room flickered for just a second. Ryan thought it was a glitch until he noticed something small, but impossible to ignore. The hallway door, which they always kept shut at night, was slightly ajar. It hadn't been open when they went to bed. He rewound the footage, played it again, and that's when he saw it. Carl. He stepped into the living room like he belonged there. Calm, methodical, dressed in black, barefoot. He walked with the confidence of someone who had done this before. Not hurried, not nervous, just quiet. He moved around the room, looking at things, touching them. He picked up one of their wedding photos again, held it in his hands for a long time, and then gently placed it back, not in the exact same spot, just enough to be noticeable, enough to mess with them. Then he disappeared into the hallway. Ryan's heart pounded as he scrubbed through the footage. For 15 minutes, the camera picked up nothing, just the still frame of the hallway. Then Carl returned, walking calmly out the front door like it was the most natural thing in the world. They called the police the next morning. An officer reviewed the footage, nodding slowly, grimly. "No signs of forced entry," he said. "Looks like he had a key." That hit them both like ice water. A key. Carl had somehow gotten into their house without breaking in, and he'd done it more than once. The locks were changed that day. All of them. They installed a second deadbolt, an alarm system, motion, lights outside, and reinforced the windows. But no amount of security could erase what they'd seen. Carl had been inside their home while they slept. He'd wandered their halls, touched their belongings, stood feet from their bed. And they, never knew. Emily broke down crying in the middle of the kitchen, holding her arms around herself like she could somehow make her skin stop crawling. Ryan didn't speak for hours. He just sat, staring at the paused image of Carl in their living room, frozen in the act of smiling at their framed photo. They wanted to confront him, to scream, to demand answers. Carl was gone. Just gone. His house stood empty. No car in the driveway, no forwarding address, as if he had never been there at all. But sometimes, late at night, Emily swore she could hear the floorboards creak. And when she checked the cameras, the living room door would be open again. The house was old but full of charm. Arched doorways, creaky wooden floors, and a big backyard. It was exactly what Megan had been looking for. A fresh start. After the divorce, all she wanted was peace. Something quiet. A place where her daughter, Lily, could feel safe again. The neighborhood seemed perfect. Wide streets lined with maple trees, kids playing outside until the streetlights flicked on, and neighbors who waved as you drove by. It felt like a second chance. They moved in on a Sunday. By Monday morning, Megan already had a list of repairs: peeling, wallpaper, leaky faucet, faulty basement light, but nothing she couldn't handle. That night, she tucked Lily into bed, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "This is our new beginning." Lily smiled sleepily and nodded. But sometime after midnight, Megan woke up to the sound of footsteps. Small ones. Quick. She figured it was Lily going to the bathroom, but when she checked her daughter's room, Lily was wide awake, sitting up in bed, hugging her knees. "He's in the basement," Lily said softly. Megan's stomach tightened. "Boo, honey." The boy, he was crying down there. Megan forced a smile, brushing Lily's hair back. "You had a dream. It's just the new place. Everything's unfamiliar right now." Lily didn't argue, but her eyes stayed wide and fixed on the bedroom door, as if she was waiting for something to walk in. The next day, Megan made sure to check the basement. It was dusty, unfinished, filled with old junk from the previous owner. Nothing unusual until she found the toy. A small carved wooden truck sitting in the corner, coated in years of grime. Lily didn't own anything like it. Later that week, Lily refused to go near the basement. Megan didn't push it, thinking it was just part of adjusting. But things kept happening. Footsteps at night, lights flickering only when she walked past the basement door. And twice she found that old wooden truck placed neatly at the bottom of the stairs, like someone had moved it. Then one morning, Megan came into the kitchen to find Lily staring out the window. "He doesn't like that we're here," she whispered. Megan followed her gaze to the backyard. There were small footprints in the dirt, bare and far too small to be her own, and they led straight to the basement windows. She sealed them that night, locked the basement door, and put furniture in front of it. But Lily still whispered about the boy, said he was sad, said he wanted to come upstairs, and one night, Megan found the wooden truck at the foot of her own bed. If you're still watching, lock your doors, check your basement, and remember, some houses don't want to forget. If you felt a chill, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who thinks their neighborhood is safe, because sometimes it's not.